Hello. I recently had the opportunity to sit down and talk with New York Blues Hall of Famer Regina Bonelli, a singer, songwriter, and musician from Brooklyn, New York. Her most recent album, Truth Hurts, released this year in 2022, where it was developed before, during, and partly after the pandemic had ended. Bonelli grew up in a musical family, first learning piano, then moving on to other instruments like guitar and drums. She has been influenced by a wide range of artists, but you can catch the influence of soul, blues, and rock and roll amongst others. She will be playing at the Lizzie Rose Music Room on November 18th at 7:30 p.m. this Friday. Be sure to check the Lizzie Rose Music Room website for ticket information to attend the show. The venue is located at 217 East Main Street in Tuckerton off exit 58. Be sure to give her music a listen, and I hope you enjoyed the interview. Thank you. I was reading through your bio that the first instrument that you learned how to play was actually the piano.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and how did you initially get into that? Were you influenced by your family or something?
Yeah, my father played a lot of different instruments. He played piano and guitar, and he sang. Not professionally, but he was definitely professional level. And we all sang. I have two sisters. We used to sing harmonies, when we were younger and stuff like that. So I think the story goes that I we were watching TV one night. So we always had a piano in the house, and we were watching TV one night, and I was like 4, and I went over and picked out the tune from the TV show. So they were like, "Oh, okay, piano lessons." So yeah, I started taking lessons when I was like 5 or something like that, and classical until I was about 12. So I stopped. I didn't want to practice anymore. So then that's when I went over to the guitar. He was like, I said, I want to play guitar. So that's what happened. That's how that happened. Then I went back to piano. So
Hey, right on.
yeah,
So is that sort of like when you're watching TV and you're always around your family? I'm guessing that's what drew you towards playing music and everything.
yeah. I mean, like I said, he was always playing in the house. Always singing, playing guitar, playing piano. His aunt, she actually played piano for the silent movies, way back when. So, and yeah, my sisters are much older than I. So, as a little girl, there was a lot of they had all the 45s. Motown was
Hmm.
playing in the house, and whole eclectic uh, uh, figure bunch of music. I was like, he was into well, everybody's into the pop music, and then um folk and the blues and stuff like that. So I think at a very young age, there was like, I mean, there was always music in the house. Always somebody was playing, or the record player was on it. We used to call it the record player, right? So
Right. And you mentioned,
yeah.
like 45s and Motown and stuff like that. What were some popular artists in your own household?
Oh wow. Well, I mean, I still have my sisters relinquished that. So when they moved out of the house, and you know what, I was cleaning out my the upstairs the other day, and I found the 45. So, gee, man, I don't know, like the original Parliament. I just want to testify.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we have I have the Rolling Stones. Like the
Yeah.
Stones 45s when they first came out, and my sisters got like every Beatle record when it came out. So that was there. As I said, then there were, we had classical records too that I used to dance around, pretend I was a ballerina to, Orpheus in the Underworld, and Peter and the Wolf. And, we had Ola Tunji back then. This is all,
Yeah.
late 60s, early 70s kind of stuff. Lead Belly. My dad was into Lead Belly. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh, do your kids, are they involved in music?
Yes, yes. I mean, they're both extremely musical, and they were always in their school stuff. The big one went to LaGuardia, but he's at MIT becoming he's got a master's for engineering and coastal resiliency and architecture. So he's not doing the music, but my little one, my daughter, she writes music. She plays bass. She plays guitar. She sings. She's amazing. They're both really good. They're both really, really, really good. So You know, whether they choose to go into it professionally, that's another whole story. So,
Yeah.
but
What was that decision like for you when you decided to sort of go into professionally? I know you did like backing vocals for quite a few big names, and then you went out like you're doing the show on Friday the 18th at Lizzie Rose. What was that sort of like for you when you started to go out on your own?
yeah, well, I started. I think I did my first professional thing when I was like 17. I think I said I was 18 because it was at the bitter end. Back then, the bitter end used to have a lot of big names in there, you know. So it
Hmm.
was just me and a guitar. You know, that's how I started um, singing and playing and accompanying myself on guitar as a solo artist. And then I met, you know how it goes. Musicians, you would come see each other, and then I wound up starting to play with other people and formed a band. The opening up wasn't I wasn't really singing backgrounds. I was part of a group of four girl a cappella group that we didn't sing 50s music, we sang 60s, and it was these really great arrangements. And so we opened up for the Temptations, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas, wow, Chubby Checker, you know. So because we were like an easy um setup, you know, they were like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, let's get those girls. And we were young, you know, 20. I think the oldest was 21. And so they would just, you know, the sound guys loved it because it was put up four mics, and then you don't have to break anything down before the big acts. That was a lot of fun. So that's how that was. But then I had an original band, like, way. I started writing my own songs when I was like 16, you know, and as I said, performing with the guitar, and then I had bands and, you know, original bands always.
Yeah, that was something that I read is that your dad gave you your first guitar at 16, and you started writing your own songs at the same age. How did you initially learn to play the guitar? Because you mentioned you would sort of collaborate and meet these other groups and stuff like that. Was that the way you did it, or did you go about it through lessons, or how did you
Yeah,
pick that stuff up?
well, as I said, I was playing piano, you know, and that I was taking
Right.
lessons from that. And then he, you know, when I kind of lost interest in that, he showed me some stuff on the guitar, you know, because there was a guitar in the house there. So my dad showed me some chords and stuff. And then there was actually a person on PBS that used to do guitar lessons, you know, like once a week you'd get the guitar lessons. And that's how I learned. You know, I didn't take formal lessons like from a teacher in a house or anything like that, or a
Hmm.
school. But yeah, so I kind of did that, and then, you know, just from there, uh, just kind of, you know, did my own thing.
Right. Did you try to like emulate any of your influences when you were learning?
Um, well, you know, I think we always had the female, you know, the folk singers, or the folk rock singers. If
Hmm.
Joni Mitchell was around, Joan Baez. My father was really into Joan Baez. I always forget about that. You know, that was like I was hearing a lot of that back then. So I would I would pick up you know, I would just play those songs that I heard off her albums. You know,
Yeah.
not I never really got music for it. I just would play it by ear and sing that stuff. And so I guess that was a big influence. But like I said, also you know, they had like Marvin Gaye stuff playing, and Tina Turner and all that stuff. And so that was when I was real little. And then, you know, as I got older, I got into my own, you know, my own choices for music. But the basics were great because, you know, they liked really great music and a lot of different variety of music.
Yeah. Some of the artists I've spoken to, they've mentioned using different brands of guitars like Gibson or Fender and all this stuff to get specific sounds. Have you done that in your own music?
Um, well, you know, like I said, I played guitar at the very beginning, so
Right.
I have a Martin guitar that my dad got me. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful guitar, which I still have. You know, so I learned on a nylon string, you know, but then I got the Martin, and I used to play that out. And then when I got into the bands, it was kind of like more of a funk kind of thing going on. I switched back to piano. So I was playing, electric piano since then until now. Like I don't play guitar on my gigs. I that I do now. I play keyboards.
Yeah. And of course
Yeah.
you come from Brooklyn, which is it's a hub of just great talent and interesting experiences. What was it like growing up in that environment, especially for the music scene?
Well, Brooklyn is, like as you said, it's a special place. I mean, it's my home. I've lived there almost all my life, and it's just a lot going on. So culturally, it's such a mix. So you get to hear, you go out and you get to hear different kinds of music from different places in the world, and people, from different places, and so there's a real variety of stuff that you're hearing all the time, and you go, and when I was young, the clubs were there was a lot of live music, more so than now. There was a lot of live music, and you heard everything. It was rock, funk, folk at the beginning, and, singer songwriter. So yeah, I mean Latin music. There's a lot of Latin influences in there. There was African drumming. I used to go take dance classes. I actually went there to to do the drumming, and then while I was there, I always did music, but in school I was always in music. I wasn't in dance.
Hmm.
And when I got to this studio to join the drum circle and take some drum lessons, because a friend of mine was doing it. In the other room was the dance class, and I was like, "Oh my God, this stuff is great!" And so I
Yeah.
really got into that. So just a lot of different people in Brooklyn, a lot of different nationalities, a lot of different, you know, everything. So it rubs off on you. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful scene.
Yeah, it's always had a reputation as being like a melting pot, especially in New York, specifically. What were some of the spots that you would sort of go to that you can remember?
Oh, you mean when I was young?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, it could be now, it could be anytime, really. It's just, I don't know. I'm not
well, the
from Brooklyn, you know.
village. Yeah. Well, the village was always like a thing. But
Hmm.
that's in Manhattan. See, when I was younger, Brooklyn now is like the place. Back when I was young, people didn't want to be in Brooklyn. They wanted to be in Manhattan. That was like the thing, right? So the village still has
Yeah.
a ton of music going on. Um, I think now I was just at this place in what is that area over there? Prospect Heights. There's some cool stuff up over there. I mean, I used to play at the bitter, like I said, the bitter end, Danceteria back in the day. Oh my God, the Ritz, Peppermint Lounge. There was this place called the Cat Club.
Hmm.
Those were like the China Club. But those were all in Manhattan. That was, like I said, Brooklyn was kind of like a province back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that kind of makes sense. It sounds like most of the time they just wanted to go over to Manhattan because there were just more avenues to explore when you're kind of spreading your sound. And then, and as
Yeah,
you
but now
said,
Brooklyn's the place to be. I mean, you
yeah, it
can't
really
even,
is.
yeah,
It
yeah.
really is, especially how music has sort of just come up through there. Like back in the night, this is unrelated to. Well, I'm not gonna say it's unrelated, but the hip hop scene over there has exploded in the last few
Oh yeah,
decades. It's huge,
yeah.
and then some of the
Well, I mean,
musical
that's,
influences.
some of the original stuff is from there, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
huge, especially back in the '90s when it was really picking up.
Yep,
Um,
exactly.
do you remember some of like the first venues that you started playing?
Well, like I just mentioned, those were the venues that I played at. I
Oh,
played at,
okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of
yeah.
misunderstood. I took it as those are just places that you frequented, but that's
Well,
amazing because
both.
those are huge
We,
names.
yeah. I did. We did both. We go there, but we were playing. I was playing a lot, so
Hmm.
we rehearsed a couple of times a week. We had a studio that we rehearsed at, and then we gig. So it wasn't a whole lot of time for going out. You know what I mean? It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, but that's, yeah. We went there. That played there. Those places that I mentioned were places that I played.
Right. And
Yeah.
this is a little bit of a segue, but how did you get involved with the True Groove All Stars? I started like taking a look at them, and they got some interesting sound.
Yeah, they sure do. Well, I was playing with Michael Hill, who's a blues cat, and I don't know even how I met him. I think I had a band. I had like a kind of uh funk rock band, and the keyboard player was playing with him,
Mhm.
and I wanted to get into some of that stuff. So he suggested meeting Michael, which I did, and Michael's great, and there's albums out on Alligator Records and stuff like that. So through Michael, I met Tomas Danko, who's the head of the True Groove label, and he's produced we decided to do a record together, now two records now. So that's kind of how just playing with guys and then meeting somebody else and like that. So it he produced my record with James Della Tacoma, that's the
Mhm.
engineer and the producer, and then all the guys are, it's the True Groove All Stars, and they're like amazing musicians that are on my records, and that I gig with now. So it's like a family situation, or like a Motown. It's like a um, a nice cohesive group of very very talented people and nice people. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard the same thing about like gospel groups and everything like that. Most of the time, whenever I talk to someone who's come from that sort of background, they always describe it as being in like a family like atmosphere. Uh,
Yeah.
like you clash, but you love each other at the end of the day type of stuff. And it's just, even if it can be a little tumultuous, it's a really great creative atmosphere.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, making records and making music, it's like it's you're working hard, you want to make great records, so you're serious,
Of
but
course.
there's something about making music together that's just very spiritual. So, you know, in all aspects of it. Anyway, for me, it's always been like that with everyone I've worked with. Like you say, I mean, some not 100%, but this particular,
Yeah. Uh,
way of us all, being together is a nice combination.
yeah. Are they going to be with you for your show at Lizzie Rose Music Room this Friday?
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna have the group, and I'm hoping everyone will come down. I hear it's a beautiful room. I've never played there before, but I'm hoping that everyone will come and check it out and support live music, support the club. I know that everybody's trying to get back on their feet after the whole pandemic fiasco and all that, and I know we are too. So, uh, yeah, it should be a blast. Should be a blast.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've only ever been able to go to their outside venue, but I still really loved it. They had it at this like campground, and I mean, I've been going to campground since I was a child, so I felt right at
Uh huh.
home. But they do
Right.
a really good job with the organizing and everything like that, and it's just a great atmosphere. And then one of my managers was telling me about the venue, and he showed me a bunch of pictures that because they're trying to relocate now that they can do that, and
Right.
it really is like a nice little spot. If you ever get a chance to kind of look it up and everything, it's really, I don't know. I really like the aesthetic of it. It feels kind of like, I don't want to say like a quaint, like it's almost like an old school type of feeling.
Right. It's
It's
like a
just
little
cool.
theater, right? It's like a
Yeah,
little mini
yeah,
theater.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So it's
definitely a nice
different than a
space.
club. So it's nice.
Yeah, it feels like kind of like an old timey bar, but it's got such a good little vibe to it that I think you're gonna really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I am so excited because, as I said, we haven't really been, we've been doing stuff, but not like to the point that it
Yeah,
was beforehand. But it's cool. I like to pick and choose, gigs and stuff like that. At this point in life, I'm interested in doing the quality things.
yeah. Especially now that things are sort of have been opening up for at least like the last year or so. What was it like
Mhm.
for you when the lockdown and everything started happening?
Well, I mean, everything stopped, right?
Yeah,
So, I don't know about you, but I was terrified. So I was really staying to myself. I mean, I didn't leave the house at the very beginning. It was just like, okay. But then we had been recording before, it started.
hmm,
So we were like, let's, we want to continue doing this. We don't want to. Who knows? It was such a weird time, right? Who knew what was going to happen? It was so
It was up in the
strange.
air.
It
Like
was
you
like,
didn't have you didn't know what was around the corner.
no, it was so strange. And I mean, I've lived through stuff, but that was, to me, that was like, whoa, right? So, but then we decided, okay, we're going to try and do some music. And so we had our little bubble of, people. Like I would see James and Tomas,
Hmm.
and that's all I would see. And at the time, my daughter was still living home with me. My son was out of the house. He's up at Massachusetts. So it was nobody. It was just that little group. And thank God, like no one got sick. No one. I still haven't. I feel like yeah, friend, Gwen. She says she said she hadn't had it either. She said I feel strangely uncool. I said right, but we would go into the studio, just the three of us, or Tomas and I would get together and do writing stuff.
Hmm.
And then we'd call the guys in, and they just lay down their parts. So we continued recording. The album, this last album, Truth Hurts, was recorded before, during, and a little bit after. But so we tried to just keep doing that. But as far as everything else, I stayed in. I didn't go to the store. I started, ordering my food. I mean, I didn't go anywhere. I remember I had to go into Manhattan. I had a doctor's appointment that I had to go to, and this was at the beginning of the thing, like really when the was hitting the fan. And my daughter came with me, and we were driving on the FDR Drive, and there was no one on the road, no, another car, and it was so surreal. It was like end of end of the world, But here we are, So I guess we're making it through, and you know.
Yeah, luckily we are. It's nice to see people sort of recovering a bit, but I know that has struck venues very hard. But one thing that you
Yeah, yeah.
mentioned is you sit down with Tomas and you kind of work on songwriting. How has your process for songwriting sort of changed? Because I know that you started doing that when you were in your teenage years, but now you got to be a lot more familiar with it. How is it sort of adapted from then until now?
Um, well, I write with other people sometimes.
Hmm.
That's that's different. I think back then I just was, writing with myself. Well, at the very beginning, but then no, no. Now that I think about it, when I got into my 20s, I had that band, and the two, me and the other band leader, we wrote together too. So my process is just um, it varies. Sometimes I'll think of a tune, just a
Hmm.
melody, and I'll be like, that's a cool melody, or I'll think of some lyric. Maybe I'll even say it out. I'll say it. Like I say, the truth hurts, but the truth can set you free. I said
Hmm.
that to myself, and I was like, well, that'd be a good song. Or I'm playing the piano just to play, and I'm playing some chords. I mean, I usually don't set out to specifically write something. I mean, when you're doing an album, you may feel like, okay, need a couple more songs, so you'll say, well, I like a song in this kind of groove, you
Hmm.
know. That's
Yeah.
that's basically how or a lot of times I want to say something about what's going on in the world. I've written a lot of those over the years, and the one particular one on this album is Mr. Big Man, which is addressing the top 1% who's pulling the strings. So it it's that's it just comes out in various ways.
Yeah, I was reading that Mr. Big Man is about, well, it addresses like wealth inequality, and I think one of the first opening lines is about a guy sitting in an ivory tower, right?
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep. They all sitting in your ivy tower. Uh, what is it then? It goes some sipping on expensive champagne, because I
yeah.
I always thought that always all my life. Like, it's funny that we some people fight amongst ourselves, and really that's not what's. I feel sometimes that's how people. I'm talking about the real powerful, that we
Hmm.
don't even know who they are. This is my theory, and that's how they stay up there because the rest of us are down here. They get us to squabble with each other, and you know.
Yeah, there's been a lot of trying to think of like awareness around growing sort of it's sort of like interclass conflict seems to be brewing a lot, and there's been a lot of commentary, especially through music, about this type of stuff. So when you were compiling and creating songs for this album, did you draw both from your own experiences and, as you said, your observances of just these issues?
Oh yeah, I mean, large amount of stuff that I write is from my own experiences.
Right.
I have, uh, I mean, there was "Don't You Put Your Hands on Me" is about domestic violence, and there was a little bit of, experience, unfortunately, with that. Then love, sometimes just love lost and found, and just like sometimes again, the truth hurts. It's just was a thought like, yeah, like I might be hurting now, but I'm glad I know, and now I can move on. So just like things like that, like you're saying, observances of life. Just
Mm-hmm.
the way people's lives go, the way you live, the things that we all go through. Hopefully, I feel that I touch on things that people can relate to. When I sing "Don't You Put Your Hands on Me" at a gig, I always get people coming up to me afterwards, women especially, but there are also instances of men who are in that situation, and they're always, you know, saying thank you for, bringing that out to the forefront, and so there's that too. I feel like as an artist, I'm responsible. I heard, I saw somebody write something to the effect of like, musicians stay out of politics, just play music, and like, nah, no, that's not the way I feel.
Yeah, I
I
think that's
feel
a
we
little
have an
ridiculous to say.
obligation to, you know,
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a little ridiculous to say that, especially to like blues musicians, where blues is,
right.
it's we sort of borrow a little bit, but
Oh, for sure. Listen, let me just say, and I always want to say this, that I know that it's an African American art form born out of the African American experience here in the United States, right? So, uh, everybody could have the blues, but not that kind of blues. That's like something else, and that's what it is. And so I feel like when I sing blues or blues type music, I am beholden to where it comes from, and
mhm.
I'm privileged to borrow it, to sing it. I don't try and be like a straight up blues singer because I've always done my own thing. Like I was never could be pigeonholed into a specific genre anyway. But particularly with that, and it strikes me funny that you can have people love the blues and be racist. Like,
Yeah, I
how
don't
can you
understand
do?
that, to be honest with you. Like a lot of that stuff, this is just some examples, is like you'll hear it derived from things like the Tulsa Massacre or slavery or like even gerrymandering could be
Right.
incorporated into blues, and all that stuff primarily has impacted black people. So when I hear, or I've met people who love the blues, but they say some off the cuff stuff that I'm sort of like, are you listening, or like what is going on here? It's just a little odd to me,
Yep.
you
I'm with
know?
you. I can't even believe it sometimes, and it's just ah, really, please. That's another whole conversation because I can't even believe some of the things that people are saying and doing, and it's so outrageous. And I mean, I've been on the earth pretty long, and I've seen some things, but this is it's just the fact that there is a term called alternate facts. I mean, what the heck, right?
Yeah,
what
yeah.
what is that? Like, how did that even come about? So I believe that we're living in a really strange time, right now between having a global, plague, and then all this other stuff go on, So that's why I hope that the music is it's it expresses pain, but it's also joyous. It's and it's a universal thing, and it brings people together, and that's what I'm always hoping for. I've been hoping for that since like as long as I can remember. So
Yeah, I've always viewed music as being sort of like an empathetic, sharing experience. You know, you listen to something and you could sort of take something away from that. And you were talking about it before, how you're talking about like some women and some men would come up to you after shows because they could relate to a song such as that can go back towards like domestic violence or anything. How does it
right.
make you feel when you're able to connect with your audience like that? I can't imagine. I'd imagine it feels great that you guys are kind of able to recognize stuff in each other.
Oh, it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
that particular thing when that first happened. Because I talk about the song a little bit,
Hmm.
but it's very moving. It's very moving to know that you can affect people like that. That's why I feel musicians are obligated to address the issues at hand, whatever your thoughts are on them. We have a platform to do that, and I personally feel like it's a responsibility to to put it out there. But it feels great, man. It's just
Yeah.
like yeah,
Yeah.
it's deep.
Uh, yeah. No, I mean, it's always. Unfortunately, I've never been able to like play in front of audiences. I'm more of a listener. You know what I mean? But
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I
Do
always
you
really
play?
enjoy
Do
it.
you play an instrument?
The only one that I could say that I can comfortably play is the trumpet or anything that's sort of around that. But I mean, I've tried to play like
Oh,
guitar and stuff like that, and maybe I just didn't have the patience for it when I was a kid, but I've been trying to get back into it.
yeah, you can. I mean, I taught piano for many years, so you could.
Mhm.
I've taught, people in their 70s, 80s. I've taught kids, but it's just to your point about the trumpet. I played trumpet too. I was in the all city band, as a trumpet player when I was in high school.
Oh
So
my god, that's
yeah, my God.
fantastic.
Oh yeah, but I was always the second trumpet. I could
Me
never hit the
too.
high
I was
notes
always the second
like
trumpet as well. Every
like
time.
like Jackie Gleason or Ed Norton. Who's the one that couldn't hit? He couldn't hit the high notes. So
God, I can't. I don't even know. But that
oh
was
my
always
God.
me. I remember they gave me a solo one time. We were doing a cover of something by Louis Armstrong. And at this point, my solo, this was all the way at the end of the concert, and this thing was going on for at least like an hour. And
Uh huh.
I don't know. I'm also an asthmatic, so that makes things a little bit interesting.
Oh my
So when
goodness.
it
Yeah.
finally got to my part, and mind you, we didn't stop. We went from one song to the next, and we didn't have much of a break. And I remember when it finally got up to you had to stand up, and I was just so exhausted because it's hard on me with my lungs, and I did not botch the solo, but I remember
Right.
sitting down thinking, well, I'm not going to play for a little bit because I need to catch my breath here, and
Oh wow. Wow. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
trumpet
Well,
is
it
so
gets
good.
I don't know. I used to get nervous like when I was little and doing the piano because I used to do piano recitals.
Hmm.
They would have and I would get nervous. I would have my mother used to say, "Oh, the butterflies," and it would go away as soon as you started playing. And I mean, I don't really get nervous now. I don't know if I was in a certain situation, maybe I would, but yeah, it's something about being on stage that's so cool. It's so I always try and sing from my heart, and the back and forth with the audience is just a great thing.
Yeah, it's an experience that you share together, and I think that's what's always so fantastic about live music specifically. It's just kind of how it's
Yeah.
always been, you know. It's
Yep.
connect
Yep.
with your audience, they come and they listen, and you get to express yourself.
Exactly.
So something that kind of really impressed me is your vocal ability on your album Truth Hurts. There's plenty of examples where you're able to really sort of belt it out, and like it could be deep, it could be high, like in It's Not My Cross to Bear or Killing Floor, we get to see some like serious range. How did you start developing your singing ability? What were some like instances, I guess, of when you started to sit down and kind of get this out there? You mentioned your a cappella group.
Right. I don't know. I really didn't take voice lessons. there was a time when I was a little bit younger, I think in my 20s or 30s, I took lessons from somebody for a little bit, maybe for like a couple of months.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, man. I just sing. I just sing,
Yeah.
and as you age or grow up, or your voice changes a little. So it's kind of like, but I've always sung like this, and you get better. I think you get to know what you can do, and you know how to work around it, and you just, I mean, I just close my eyes and try and just sing the things I'm hearing,
Hmm.
So
Yeah. It's definitely worked out though. Something that I actually wanted to ask about, because you grew up during a pretty interesting time, and compared to like the '60s through the '90s, music has become a lot more accessible. We have services like Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, and plenty of other platforms. But back then, it was records, CDs, tapes, whatever you sort of grew up into.
hmm
Uh, has this adaptation sort of helped spread your sound? Because I know sometimes I've spoken to some people, and they say it's become saturated. For others, it's been sort of just been better for them because it people can just find their music a lot simpler. What has that been sort of like for you?
it's been both, I think. Yes,
Hmm.
you can find my music easily, right?
Yeah.
But almost too easily because as far as people could, first of all, people could get you music for free.
Yep.
That's just, I mean, I remember when my first album came out, and then like the next day, this was before Spotify and stuff, and then the next day I saw it on it was up on some site, like and I remember I called the engineer. I was like, oh my god, and they were like, whatever, this is the new world, So, it is true though. I do agree as far as the saturation. Because it's very easy to create music um, in some form or other and get it out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. So there is a glut of things that you have to wade through. Um, I think that there's a lot of music out there. There's a lot of not so good music. There's a lot of good music, but I don't think there's a lot of great music. So what I strive to do, and I hope that people appreciate, is to make great music, and then that comes through,
Hmm.
But there is a lot to wade through, man. It's just like, ooh,
Yeah.
anybody can make a record. I mean, some people make amazing records in their bedrooms,
Yep.
Obviously, right? We know the current stuff is like that, but even this type of thing, it's all the digital stuff. It's so easy to do, but it's not easy to do it great. And you have to have the the core of it has got to be solid and good and entertaining and real. So in answer to your question, yeah, it's easier for people to go, okay, I want to listen to Regina Bonelli now. I'm going to go, put in Spotify, iTunes. I could do all of that stuff. If I want to download it, I could download it. If I want to get a hard copy of a CD, maybe she still has CDs. People apparently they're coming back again, um, but like I said, there's just so much out there. There's just so much. So that's why I feel blessed that people are listening to it. It makes me feel good.
Yeah. I think something that I really enjoy is that vinyls have been sort of making a resurgence as of late. Like you see that at a lot
Yeah,
of shows where
yeah,
a lot more people are inclined to get them. I remember being in high school, and a friend of mine ended up picking up a Muddy Waters vinyl record, and she started playing it, and then she stopped playing things like CDs and altogether.
yeah, yeah.
So it's been really nice to see that come out. I remember I went to go see Tinsley Ellis, and I've never really been like a huge vinyl guy. I just didn't grow up in it or anything
Right,
like that. But
right.
now it's now that I've gotten a little bit older, we've started picking out like vinyl records or record players, sorry. And there's definitely like a little bit of a difference in the sound. I feel like I feel it more. with vinyl records. Is that the same for
Yeah,
you?
yeah, definitely. I think so. I really think so. I mean, I also when I was a little kid, we had my mother used to call it the Victrola, so like, but we didn't have quality then. In then later on in my teens and stuff, people started getting like good sound systems, and that was the era of the
Hmm.
huge speakers and the turntables, and then after that, boom, it went into whatever came after the tapes, right? The cassette tapes, and then the CDs and the MP. What was that other thing they had for a minute there? So
Um, I don't know.
I mean,
Well,
you can't. To me, one thing that's really different is like when you listen to vinyl on not on headphones. I mean, I love listening on headphones like I'm crazy, but it's a whole nother thing to have the music coming out into the air around you. So I think when you listen to vinyl like that, you really you hear the difference. And not for nothing, but the age of vinyl, the pictures and the artwork on the albums was amazing.
yeah.
I mean, the covers had a beautiful artwork. So you lost that.
Yeah, I think one special thing about vinyl, it's exactly what you said. Comparing, like, instead of listening to headphones and you're hearing it through speakers, like, let's say you got a nice pair of JBLs, is you really feel things like the bass or the guitar or the vocals, like you physically feel it, like vibrations and stuff like
Yes.
that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think you get that same thing from like a CD or a tape. So it's always really nice to just revisit vinyls for that reason, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Um,
I agree. I remember one a quick little thing that
okay.
my brother-in-law, who's much older than like I said, my sisters are older than me, and he was a little bit older than my sister. So when we were kids, when I was a kid, uh, he bought these huge speakers. I forget what they were, but they were like it was like I said, it was the era of the things were like 4, 5 feet tall. Like they
Hmm.
stood on the floor, and he used to play. And we used to say, "Play it, Phil. Play it, Uncle Phil. Play it." He would put on the 2001 Space Odyssey. What is that? Also,
I
Zarathustra.
know what you're talking about. I can't name it off the top of my head
Oh
though.
my God, it's the thing that went bum 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 da
Yep.
and he would blast he would blast it on the speakers and stuff used to shake like the glasses, and that was like a big thing. We were kids. We were like, play it, and he used to. And so you're talking about reverberation and making things vibrate. Yep.
I'm trying to remember. There's oh man, was it Miramax? I don't remember. It does this sort of like I know it does it in the beginning of Star Wars, but they had these like when you're watching a movie and you see something calling it, like, let's say Lionsgate, and they show the lion and it does the roar and stuff like that.
Right.
There's this one thing that we used to force my dad to play all the time, but it would just be this sort of like high synth sound that just drops down into this low bass.
Oh
And
yeah, I know what you're talking.
yeah, I can't think of what it is, but I remember my dad. He had these speakers that were probably like maybe 5 feet tall and maybe a foot and a half wide, and
Right.
they would
Right.
be placed right along our TV set and everything like that. And he'd play that, and we'd listen to is sort of like surround sound, and just
Yep.
oh my god, things literally did shake. Like you would see something like little window panes or whatever just shake, and
Little
there's
knickknacks, right? The
yeah,
knickknacks.
yeah. And I don't know, man. Like growing up as a kid, that was the most amazing thing. It was like experiencing an earthquake that you wanted to happen.
Right, right. I know what you're talking about too.
Yeah.
I know it's just it was like a synth thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Have you played in New Jersey before?
Yeah. I played at there was a couple of festivals I did, the South Mountain Blues
Okay.
Festival in Orange, and I've played. Where else have I played in Jersey? Oh, there used to be this cool little juke joint called the Robin's Nest up in I think it was Edison or somewhere around there. I used to
Okay.
play there a bunch.
Okay.
So South Jersey, I haven't been down there, so it'd be a first for me. I mean, I've been down there as looking at the beautiful beaches, but I haven't played down around there. I played at In Pennsylvania, like right across the border or so.
Okay, so quite a bit in Philly.
Yeah, I played in Philly. Yeah, I played in Philly. I played in near what's the town that's across from Trenton? What is that? I can think of it
I can't think of it
in
off the top of my
Pennsylvania.
head. Oh,
Yeah.
across
So
from Pennsylvania, there's quite a bit. I know we have like Cherry Hill, we have Trenton, we have Newark, which
I
well,
played in Cherry Hill. Yeah, I played in Cherry. I used to play in Cherry Hill on New Year's Eve with a cover band. Oh my God! Like every New Year's Eve, I used to dread it only because it was such a long ride on New Year's, and then I would have to lose my New Year's, you know. But back then, you did it, you know, you was making money. So,
plus the traffic on New Year's is always just the worst, especially
well,
if
we
you're going
used
to
to
a busy
get there
area.
early, and then you had to play through the midnight, you know, through the strike
Hmm.
of midnight. So we didn't leave. We'd leave there in 1, 2, and get home, you know, 3, 4 in the morning, and that was the end of, you know, it was like no. I remember the first time I did not do that because I wasn't playing that type of gig anymore. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great money and all that, but when I had my kids, I remember thinking, I don't want to miss New Year's like this. This is, you know. So I stopped doing it, and I remember, wow, I'm celebrating New Year's, you know, because for maybe 10 years I didn't do it. So I
Yeah,
gigged. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm sure that must have been like a pretty cool would have experience. Did you feel a little out of place?
What do you mean? Well, yeah. I mean, you know, people are partying and you're working. You know, it's just like it's like another day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like another day. So
yeah.
another night. Right?
Okay, and what time does the show start on the 18th?
7:30.
7:30 p.m. Is there any
Yes.
specific songs that we can expect to hear?
Oh, well, you're going to hear most of the stuff from the new album. I'll be playing Truth Hurts, The Last Tear, which is one of my favorites off the album. I'm going to do It's Not My Cross to Bear, Killing Floor. I have a couple of choice cover songs that I'm going to throw in there for good measure. And like I said, I try and leave it all out there on the stage, and I guarantee you're going to have a good time. So I hope people will come out and support the music and support the club, and just, you know, we can all come together in this fragmented world that we live in, and forget about all that, and just be like a community. It'd be nice, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, and I'm glad you said The Last Tear because I really enjoy that song. That and Didn't I were probably among my favorites.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, me too. I like those both. I
Yeah.
like those both.
And that's not to say that none of the other songs are great. They all really are. Like Mama Raised a Sweet Thing is fantastic. Of course, we talked
Thank
about
you.
Mr. Big Man. I love that. And I mean,
Thank you.
the whole album is just it's really good, very good.
Awesome. Awesome. Glad you like it. Glad you like it. And I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. And I mean, I'm gonna definitely play some of your stuff. I'm glad I got to sit down and talk with you as well. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And thanks for helping me get the music out there, and the show. If you want to come to the show, let me know. That'd be awesome to meet you in person, and let me know when you're spinning the stuff. I'll put it up on my social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Every Sunday, 12 to 2.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome, man. Thank
But
you
it's
very, very much.
I just got one final thing because sometimes I forget to ask artists. How can people find your music?
Okay, they can go to, well, my website is reginabonelli.com, but my music is on all the streaming platforms. It's on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon. I do have some hard copy CDs. If anybody wants it, they can message me from the website, and you could do that too. But it's on it's everywhere. So, you know, they can just go on all those platforms and sample the stuff.
All right, perfect. And they'll be able to catch you this Friday, the 18th, at the Lizzie Rose Music Room at 7:30 p.m.